This week in game news, the NVIDIA Shield tablets received the upgrade to Android Marshmallow. Open world winter sports game Snow is going into open beta on January 27, 2016. Tales of Symphonia is coming to Steam on February 2, 2016. Siren, Primal, Okage, Ape Escape Free, and Wild Arms Free have all been rated by the ESRB for the PlayStation 4, implying that Sony will be bringing these games over for emulation. The Xbox One's emulation of the Xbox 360 will support games that employ multiple discs in 2016. Stealth Game Volume will be released on the PlayStation Vita on January 5, 2016, and YouTuber Total Biscuit held his Arbitrary Game Awards for the second year. Seeing as we're staring down the barrel of a new year, this episode of Game News Update is the perfect episode for looking back at all the fascinating things that happened in the world of video games in 2015. 2015 was a good year for games. Plenty of hotly anticipated titles, such as The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4 were released, as well as some games that took us by surprise. Today, we'll be looking back at some of our favorite games and game news of 2015. This is the Blackman and Robin Game News Update. Nintendo's president, Tatsumi Kimishima, posted a message on Nintendo's corporate site that reveals a bit more about their business strategy regarding the Nintendo NX. In case you haven't heard of the Nintendo NX, it's their upcoming console that's still in development. We don't really know that much about it. The message from Kimishima is essentially about how Nintendo is offering their IP in a variety of different ways so that not only current players of our video games, but all customers, including those who used to play but currently do not, and even those who have never played our video games before, will also come into contact with Nintendo IP. Nintendo has thus revealed their hand. The reason why they've been releasing free-to-play mobile games, such as Pokemon Shuffle and the upcoming Pokemon Go, is to draw people in for the games which will make up the meat of Nintendo's sales, the backbone for the NX. Much like the original Wii, it may be that the point of the NX will be to get broader audiences playing games. Unlike the Wii, however, which saw a boom of players followed by a deflated, stagnant bust when many of these players didn't pick up the Zeldas and Marios, the goal of the NX may be to leverage smartphone games with broad appeal to get everybody playing Mario and Metroid and Star Fox. Will this work? Time will tell. Right now, besides a few rumors, we know almost nothing about the Nintendo NX. We'll be keeping an eye out for news regarding the NX going into 2016. Have you ever wondered about how games are made? For instance, consider Banjo-Kazooie. Did you know that the game started out as Rare's attempt at an ARPG about a kid and his dog? How did it become a game about a bear and a bird? Rare has revealed their creative process in a new video. You can watch the full thing at blackmanandrobin.com. It's a nice glimpse inside how games can change so radically and how one project may be turned into completely another. Folks, we have some breaking news. Yes, this show is prepared in advance, we're not live, but at the time of production, there's a major breaking story and we're not sure of what exactly is going on. Valve's Steam service is experiencing some massive technical difficulties. Users were accessing each other's accounts. Valve has since shut down their servers, but in case you're watching this and the servers are still down, it may be wise to unlink your Steam and PayPal accounts. To do this, go to paypal.com and access your settings by clicking on the cog. After that, click on Pre-approved Payments under Payment Settings, and you should be given a list of vendors that you've given access to your PayPal account. If you see Valve Corp, click it, and then click on Cancel on the next page. So what exactly happened? It seems that there was a database issue. While users couldn't, or at least weren't supposed to be able to, change each other's settings or information, they were able to view information that belonged to other people. This personal information included PayPal email addresses, telephone numbers, and the last few digits of credit card numbers. If you have your credit card linked to your Steam account, Don't panic, just keep an eye on your account balance. If you see any purchases that you do not recognize, contact your bank immediately. In-game releases this week, Aviary Attorney was released on Steam, and it's just as weird and wonderful as it sounds. In Aviary Attorney, you play as J.J. Falcon, a bird lawyer. The game is set in France in 1848 and boasts music by the hottest DJ of our times, Camille Saint-Saëns. Thus far, the game has gotten great reception from players who say it's a fun mystery game and that the courtroom scenes are surprisingly compelling. The art style, too, is rather unique. I honestly cannot recall the last time I saw a video game illustrated with cross-hatched ink drawings. Personally, I'm very fond of the look. It reminds me of very, very old Guides to Wildlife. If you're looking for a neat adventure game with a good sense of humor, check out Aviary Attorney. Super Mario Galaxy was re-released on the Wii U this week. It's a well-loved Mario game that was originally released in 2007 for the Wii. Set in outer space, you're playing as Mario, obviously, and you have to walk around planets. The game was well received for shaking up the franchise by introducing new gameplay elements. The spherical platforms were a nice change of pace. I've not played it yet and can't comment on how it is, but from what I've heard from both fans and critics, it's absolutely fantastic. If you're a JRPG fan, you may be pleased to hear that a new trailer has been released for a PlayStation 4 remaster of Valkyria Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles is set during a fictionalized version of World War II, and is well loved for its fantastic story, which, apparently, does a fantastic job at addressing the Holocaust, something that rarely comes up in games set during World War II. It's a game that I've been meaning to play for quite some time, seeing as I own the PC version, but I've not quite come around to it. There's no word on a date for a Western release for this PlayStation 4 version, but Sega is likely to bring it to the United States. A new video has been released for the Starry Expanse project. It's a 3D fan remake of Myst 2, Riven. The original game, you see, wasn't actually in 3D. Rather, it was a series of pre-rendered 3D images, hence, when you moved around in the game, you weren't really moving in 3D space, but browsing through a series of 3D images. The point of this project is to make the game fully 3D, so you can move around in real time. The project has been worked on for nearly a decade. You can check it out at starryexpanse.com. Speaking of Myst, Abduction, a game which was a big hit on Kickstarter, is still in development and coming along nicely. In case you've not heard of it, the game is being worked on by the creators of Myst and Riven, and it ran into some trouble with the publisher pulling out earlier in the year. Essentially, the game had made great progress, and a publisher was going to give them additional financial backing, but suddenly, the publisher withdrew their support. Cyan Inc. made enough money with the Kickstarter to develop Abduction, but the additional funding from the publisher would have enabled them to make a bigger game. Because of this unnamed publisher's pulling out, the developers had to back up and rethink the scope of the game. In spite of this difficulty, Abduction is still progressing. It's a game that we'll be watching for in 2016. A new trailer has been released for Mid-Air. Currently on Steam Greenlight, the game rather resembles a Tribes game, largely because Tribes was a major inspiration to the developer. In development by Archetype Studios, the game is an FPS with a strong sense of verticality. There are jetpacks, vehicles, and customizable loadouts. Mid-Air will be free to play for Windows when it's eventually released. Personally, I find myself drawn to the gorgeous art style. The environmental textures are hand-painted and they look great. If you'd like to see the game on Steam, you can vote for it on Greenlight. We'll have a link to the Greenlight page for Mid-Air at blackmanandrobin.com. Galaxy Trail Games this week released a brand new trailer for Freedom Planet 2. In case you're unfamiliar with Freedom Planet, it's an indie platformer that's widely regarded as the best Sonic the Hedgehog game that doesn't actually star Sonic. Freedom Planet essentially has a lot of gameplay elements in common with the old Sonic games. There's no word on when Freedom Planet 2 is coming out, but as you can guess, it's a game that we'll be keeping an eye on. Looking back, some incredible things happened in the world of gaming in 2015. To start with, the Blackman and Robin Game News Update debuted on January 25th, 2015. The first episode was about 6.5 minutes long, and it had some really terrible audio, replete with hissing and popping, but it laid the groundwork for the episodes to follow. Feedback from fans across the internet, including those on Vote's gaming community, has helped us to improve the show. So, what were some of the most exciting pieces of gaming news from 2015? Here are some highlights. To begin with, the first PAX South took place in San Antonio, Texas in January, and saw pretty good attendance. The Penny Arcade Expos are a lot like the Comic-Con shows. The thing is, they're purely for gaming. PAX South isn't the biggest PAX. Right now, tickets are still on sale for the show. Tickets for the other PAXs, namely PAX East and PAX Prime, sell out in a matter of minutes. Still, PAX South is a pretty big deal for gamers living in the southern part of the United States because it's easier for a lot of folks to get to San Antonio, Texas than it is for them to go to, Seattle or Boston. This raises the question, will we ever see a PAX Alaska? Maybe in 2016. In February, we attended Indiecade East. Held in New York, Indiecade East is a lot smaller than shows like PAX. Its focus is on indie games, as you may surmise. We saw a lot of awesome stuff at that show, such as Helldivers, which was released on the PS4 and later on PC. It's a top-down game with a rather Heinlein-esque sense of humor. There was Choice Chamber, a platformer that takes Twitch integration seriously. Your viewers decide how hard the levels are. And then there was the Leap Motion, an add-on for your virtual reality headset that brings your hands into VR without the use of fancy gloves. While Indiecade East is a lot smaller than the bigger gaming shows, it also has a much more intimate feeling to it. I was able to walk, not run, between panels, and there was something about the atmosphere that was generally a lot more conducive to having discussions with developers and gamers. It just seemed to have a much less commercial slant than PAX, and I really enjoyed that. In March, Cities Skylines was released and sold 250,000 copies at launch. At the time of this video's production, it has sold nearly 2 million copies. In case you've not heard of it, Cities Skylines is a city-building game rather like SimCity. It kind of took the place of SimCity since the most recent game in the SimCity franchise was a bit of a disaster that tried to cash in on trashy DRM and trendy, useless cloud gaming features that'll make the game impossible to play when EA decides to stop supporting servers. Regarding Cities Skylines, however, it does everything that SimCity is supposed to do. It's well supported by its developers, and it has a big, friendly community that's constantly producing cool new mods. On the whole, Cities Skylines is worth picking up. Also released in March was Discourse, an interactive choose-your-own-adventure game set on a deserted island. Discourse was a really big hit on Kickstarter. I reviewed the game and found it very satisfying. I really liked the game's sense of humor as well as its art style. While I found the free Indie Island bonus DLC to be a bit lacking and disappointing, hey, it was free DLC. At the time of this video's production, Discourse is part of the Humble Weekly Bundle, so go check that out if you've not already. On April 30th, 2015, cloud gaming service OnLive was shut down. What OnLive was a platform that allowed you to play just about any game from almost any device, so long as you had a stable internet connection. For instance, let's say that there's a game that you'd like to play, but your computer is not quite powerful enough to handle it. If you purchased the game on OnLive, you could play it smoothly so long as your connection to the internet was stable. It was a very cool concept, but unfortunately, it was one that didn't offer very much security, and as a result, most gamers really weren't comfortable with it, and for good reason. When the service shut down, nobody was able to play their games. If you purchased a game on OnLive, well, sorry, it's gone now. There's no way to download your library. Moral of the story, make sure you have access to the things that you pay money for. DRM-free versions of games are extremely valuable. April wasn't all bad news, however. The Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced for the PlayStation 4 that month. Square Enix recently unveiled some new details about it, as well as some fresh gameplay. This Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to have some more real-time combat elements, and it's going to be released episodically. In May, Nintendo released Splatoon on the Wii U. In case you've not heard of it, somehow, it's a third-person shooter in which you play as an Inkling, a creature that's half squid, half kid, and can switch forms between the two. Splatoon's unique in that it's won awards for both Best Family Game as well as Best Shooter. In a market drenched in gritty, bloody, multiplayer wargames, Splatoon is a breath of fresh air. The game is about coloring an arena with your team's own color of ink, and in spite of lacking iron sights and voice chat, shooter fans young and old loved Splatoon in 2015 for bringing something new to the table. Additionally, Nintendo kept updating the game with fresh content. New weapons, free maps, and other DLC have helped keep players on their toes. While this stream of fresh, free DLC will end in January 2016 with Piranha Pit and Anchovy Games maps, there's now plenty of content in Splatoon, and it's really more than enough to justify a purchase. If you own a Wii U, make sure you get your hands on Splatoon. In June, E3 2015 took place. It was a pretty big deal. Just to name a few exciting things that were announced, there's the upcoming Edge of Nowhere, a VR game in development by Insomniac that seems to have Lovecraftian leanings. There was the announcement of Fallout 4, Dishonored 2, and The Elder Scrolls Legends, as well as the release of Fallout Shelter that took place right after Bethesda's conference. Microsoft announced Xbox 360 emulation for the Xbox One and showed off ReCore, which is being worked on by the creator of Mega Man along with Sea of Thieves by Rare, and Halo 5, which was released this year on the Xbox One. Electronic Arts brought us Mirror's Edge Catalyst footage and confirmed the existence of Mass Effect Andromeda with a teaser. Meanwhile, Sony set the internet on fire, simply by reminding everybody that The Last Guardian is still alive, and then they excited us all with Horizon Zero Dawn. Regarding Horizon, it's a game that I'm personally looking forward to. It's a post-apocalyptic game about hunting giant robot dinosaurs. I mean, honestly, what's not to love? Meanwhile, in Nintendo Land, The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes was shown off, and many folks were disappointed to see Metroid Prime Federation Force, which isn't really the Metroid that everybody's come to know and love. In July, Rocket League was released. It's a football, or soccer if you prefer, game that allows you to play the beautiful game with rocket-powered cars. It was a smash hit and has made millions of dollars. It's already out on PS4 and PC and is set to come to the Xbox One in 2016. In August, the International 2015 took place. This Dota 2 tournament had the largest prize pool in esports history, over $18 million. Evil Geniuses took home first place, winning $6 million. That's not all that happened in August, however. Gamescom 2015 took place in Germany, and a bunch of cool stuff was shown off there, such as the Dragonbox Pyra, an open-source handheld console. In September, digital RPG/board game Armello was released. It's a beautiful strategy game set in a fantasy universe that surprisingly few folks have heard of. It got great reception from both critics and fans, and may be worth checking out if it sounds like your sort of game. Square Enix came up with a terrible plot for convincing people to pre-order their new game, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Called the Augment Your Pre-Order campaign, this campaign invited people to come and pre-order the game. The more folks pre-ordered, the more rewards would be unlocked. There were several problems with this business model, however. There was no transparency as to how many pre-orders would be necessary to unlock these tiers of rewards. The campaign backfired horribly. In October, the Augment Your Pre-Order campaign was cancelled, and Deus Ex Mankind Divided was freed from the shackles of this absurd campaign thanks to gamers. The internet got something cancelled without the use of death threats. That's worth celebrating. In 2015, Star Citizen gained more lofty and ridiculous goals. By the time the game's out in the year 2793, it'll be a total universe simulator capable of emulating a 1000% science-based Dragon MMO. So, Star Citizen's making bigger and bigger promises. Why is this news? Because in 2015 the game passed the $100 million mark in funding from fans. It was already the most successful crowdfunding project of all time, but having raised over $100 million, it now has a bigger development budget than Final Fantasy VII and The Witcher 3 combined. It's a bigger budget than that for Metal Gear Solid 5, which cost $80 million to develop. It's a lot of money. Here's hoping it goes to good use. Well folks, we're out of time for this week's episode of Game News Update, so now we're left with the question of what we should be looking forward to for the next year. Well, that's another episode altogether, but in short, expect a lot of exciting advancements in virtual reality. The Vive VR headset that's in development by Valve and HTC has been delayed to April 2016 because Valve has had some sort of technological breakthrough that we'll probably hear more about during CES in January of this year. Of course, the Vive's not the only headset coming out in 2016. The PlayStation VR for the PS4 will likely be released, and the consumer version of the Oculus Rift is set to come out next year. Expect 2016 to be the year of VR. If 2016 is not the year of VR, I will eat those words, printed preferably on a cake. Well, that's it for this year's game news. For all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews, be sure to follow at Blackman and Robin on Twitter. Be sure to follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views. By the way, the sweet tunes to follow were provided by Bloodcode Music. You can check out more of his stuff at soundcloud.com/bloodcodemusic.
Let me be